I'm Alexandre Trindade. I'm from Brazil. I'm doing my PhD here at Cambridge at the University of the Faculty of Education, and I'm also a member of CLAREC, who was organized this celebration with the faculty community and some partners. So, and today we are going to have like a very special partner who are share with us some thoughts, especially concern extension communication. That is one of the books of Paulo Freire. And I have the pleasure to have here today Thais and Evandro, who are going to present this seminar. So over to you, Evandro and Thais.
First of all, I will share my screen and Evandro can start.
Okay. And hello, everyone. Good morning from Brazil. And my name is Evandro. I'm a PhD and associated research at Unicamp. And we are discuss today the influences of Paulo Freire's thought in the construction of university extension policies in Brazil.
So, hi everyone. As Evandro said, I would like to thank the opportunity to talk with you about Paulo Freire and the relation to university extension. My name is Thais Giben. I am a PhD candidate in the Department of Science and Technology Policy at the University of Campinas in Brazil, the same as Evandro. And we are researchers at the Innovation Policies Analysis Group, GAPI, from Unicamp too. So our Innovation Policies Analysis Group has been working on the study of science, technology, and society relations for a while, and based on the use of approaches such as the history and sociology of science and technology, the economics of technology, public authorities, and political analysis. And one of the main topics researched refers to the university society and the university public sector relationship. So university extension, therefore, is at the core of the group's discussion. Today's seminars aims to reflect on university extension in Brazil, based on Paulo Freire's work, as well as to debate about his influence in some conceptions of university extension. So we structured the seminar using 4 parts. The first one aims to present a background about Paulo Freire's work and to dissertate on his book Extension or Communication, as mentioned by Alexandre. And the second part deals with the specific case of university extension in Brazil. In addition, the third part aims to present the concept of extension for PROEX, which is an association of university extension prorectors, representatives from Brazilian public higher education institutions, considering the influences of Paulo Freire's work in this conception. And finally, the last part deals with the impact of science and the university on society, considering an approach that transcends the idea of knowledge transmission.
Yes, before we start to talk about Paulo Freire, first of all, would you like to thank, I forget to thank the CLAREC, the Cambridge Latin America Research and Education Collective. It's a great initiative and a great, have been a great event. And thanks for this opportunity to talk about Paulo Freire. And before we started to talk about that, about the book, about from Paulo Freire's thought, I'd like to clarify some initial definitions about university extension, about university extension policy, and so on. So first, we are talking about university extension. University extension is have a Latin American and Brazilian trajectories, and we could relate that the term university extension, considering that we are speaking to a broad audience, not only by Brazilians. We could relate that the debate on university extension to the debate about university community engagement, university social engagement, even university public engagement. So this is the meaning. University extension is an academic mission institutionalized and prescribed by law, by the Brazilian Constitution, along research and teaching. So it's an important academic mission, and we are trying to focus on this debate, trying to do a free reflection, trying to to relate the Paulo Freire's thought to this university mission. And when we talk about university extension policy, we're talking about three main points: the construction of a concept at the national level, the institutionalization of university extension in higher education institutions and the public policy related, and the political and theoretical debate around this academic mission. In the end of the day, you are talking about the relationship between university and society, trying to bring some reflections that Paulo Freire developed.
So for us, talking about Paulo Freire's work is a reason of a great pride, especially because he is the patron of a Brazilian education. As you know, Paulo Freire was an educator and an extensionist who defended the idea that the main objective of education consists in the conscientiousness of the students. So his work transcends the Brazilian borders and reaches all over the world. And one of his most famous books is called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, released in 1968. So in our seminar, we will deal with the book Extension or Communication, published in 1969. It's this book I think it's in your right. Although this book is not the most remembered in the presentations about Paulo Freire, the book analyzes the work of the extension agronomist, the so-called rural extension or technical assistant to rural areas, who goes to a rural community to try to solve certain problems concerning agricultural production. So in other words, he was analyzing the way of a specialist, the scientists, and other academics interact with rural and marginalized communities. And based on it, Freire develops a reflection intended as a global criticism of the idea of extension. So in that context, he was criticizing the idea of transmission of knowledge from someone who is illuminated to someone who is ignorant. So about the meaning of the term extension, considering its semantic and associative aspect, Freire reflects carrying out extension, such as the rural extension, implies extending something to someone. So indeed, if there is something to be extended, concomitantly, there is a person who performs the action and another person who receives it. So from this list of meanings, Freire presents that all these terms, such as transmission, active, subjective, the one who extends to a recipient, who is to whom it is extended. The extension as content that is chosen by the one who extends to another who receive this extension, this knowledge extension. The extension related to delivery of something that is carried by a subject from one place to another. The meaning of superiority of the content of the one who delivers to one who is inferior, the inferiority of those who receive. Extension as a mechanism, a type of action of the one who extends. Cultural invasion through the content extended, which reflects the vision of those who take it. So this list of terms involve actions that, by transforming man into almost a thing, deny him as a human being of a transformation of the world. Then, because of this publication, because of this book, Freire questioned us about the act of knowing and the role of the educator, affirming that knowledge only materializes as such to extent that is observed and applied to a concrete reality. So we have a citation here. I will read it for you. So according to Freire, knowledge does not extend from those who think they know to those who think they do not know. Knowledge is constituted in man-word relations, relations of transformation, and is improved through the critical problematization of these relations. So in other words, Freire presents some dimensions of university extension, such as the dialogicity and the exchange of knowledge, the construction of a new knowledge through interactive process, the connection with concrete local problems, the respect for the knowledge and the culture of the communities and groups. So he presents also the use of this knowledge, the scientific knowledge, for the transformation of a problematic realities relating to communities and groups, the transformation of the scientific research and teaching traditionally done, and among other aspects. So Paulo Freire, especially in this book, he was he made a special task, a special job, work related to this university extension, especially because of the concept. And he was considered in this time, actually it was before the military period in Brazil, an extensionist itself. So he worked in that period on a series of extension activities before this period. Let me.
So based on this reflection that Thais explained to us, and taking that into account that Paulo Freire was criticizing an idea of transmission of knowledge, a very positivistic idea, I would say, we will jump to the debate on university extension in Brazil, trying to do this to do this reflection. First of all, I would clarify that the word extension here, it's utilized because it's part of our trajectory in Latin American scope about university community engagement debate. So Paulo Freire criticized the word extension, but in terms of institutionalizing or in terms of public policy, we have this expression, university extension. But the important here, it's the meaning that we are trying to debate on that. So to talk about university extension in Brazil, we choose to pick up a keystone historical point in your country, which is the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. It was a renewal of the debate on university extension in Brazil, especially because the end of the military dictatorship that we were facing. So in this context, some academics and social movements and political movements, they started to bring back discussions about the social commitment or public commitment of the public higher education institutions, especially regarding to the country's glaring socioeconomic problems as poverty, inequality, human rights, democracy, culture, environment, education, economic development, and so on. So basically, in that context, some academics and political and social movements were discussing a lot the social commitment of public universities, the societal role of the education and higher education, and this kind of things. The university extension debate was within that. So, as we could see in the next slide, if you so in the end of the 80s, it was created the Forum of Prorectors for Extension of the Brazilian Public Higher Education Institutions. We call here FORPROEX as an acronym. So this forum is association of university extension prorectors, representatives from Brazilian public higher education institutions. Basically, every higher education institution, public higher education institution here in Brazil, has the right to send a representative to work on this forum, to work at this forum actually, and try to articulate and define academic extension policies. The Forum of Prorector for Extension is considered the main actor and the main figure on the university extension debate on the national landscape. So even nowadays, it is a very important association that have been carrying out research on university community engagement, carrying out political and public policies on the STEM, and influencing some public policies regarding university extension, such as the elaboration of the National University Extension Plan, the National University Extension Policy, and other discussion. So personally, I consider the FORPROEX the main political and academic actor in the field of the discussions about university extension in Brazil. So if we could, in this presentation, we would like to discuss the definition that FORPROEX built on university extension in the end of the 90s. And this definition, it's very important because allowed the higher education institutions to think about this academic mission, to try to institutionalize this academic mission, try to put some guidance, some orientation, some kind of things that help the higher education institutions to promote university community engagement, initiatives, practices, and policies. So this definition, it also, it was very important because before that, even though we have a tradition on university community engagement in the Brazil and Latin American landscape, This definition was important in the end of the 80s because we could build a debate about university extension from that definition, especially taking into account the public policies and the institutionalizing issues about university community engagement. So I know this is not so usual, but I will read the definition because it's important to our debate right now. So in the end of the 80s, Freires built this definition about university community engagement. University extension is the educational, cultural, and scientific process that articulates teaching and research in an inseparable way and enables the transforming relationship between the university and society. So the extension is a two-way street with guaranteed transit to the academic community, which will find in society the opportunity for the elaboration of the praxis of academic knowledge. When they return to the university, teachers and students will bring back a learning experience that, subjected to theoretical reflection, will be added to that knowledge. So in the next slide, we will continue with this definition. This flow, which establishes the exchange of systematized academic and popular knowledge, will have as consequences the production of knowledge resulting from the confrontation with the Brazilian and regional reality, and the democratization of academic knowledge, and the effective participation of the community in the university's actions. Besides instrumentalizing this dialectical process of theory practice, extension is an interdisciplinary work that favors an integrated view of the social. So basically speaking, as we will see in the next slide, this forum of prorectors, they try to define university extension or university community engagement based on these core points. University extension is an educational, cultural, and scientific process articulating teaching and research. The university extension needs to build a transforming relationship between the university and society based on a praxis of academic knowledge, and have to have a conception of exchange of knowledge within the popular knowledge. So the idea here it's to promote this kind of exchange between the academic knowledge and the popular knowledge. And finally, trying to instrumentalizing this dialectical process of theory and practice, bringing together theory and practice. So these definitions, as we can notice, this definition have important words, terms, ideas, conceptions here that we saw in the Paulo Freire's criticism about the idea of transmission and transmission of knowledge. So as you can see in the next slide, trying to put together the Paulo Freire's thoughts and these definitions about university extension, we could state that beyond the idea that the university extensions have to be beyond the idea of transfer and transmission of knowledge. So this is very important to the Paulo Freire's discussions, to have a relationship between university or academic knowledge and popular knowledge that goes beyond the idea of transmission of knowledge. So such concepts or terms like process, dialogue, communication, articulation between knowledge. They are very important to think about the relationship between university and society. The second point that Paulo Freire's thought and university extensions could, they're similar because Paulo Freire's influenced this concept, is that the university-society relationship has cultural, educational, and political dimensions. So every relationship between university or academics or educators and the community represents actually the social commitment of university, represents some ideas, some political or even ideological dimensions of this relationship. So it's very important to Paulo Freire and university extension debate to put the relationship between university and community in a context, and to understand this context and to understand the social commitment of university. Third, university extension is a work and a praxis. So the definition about university extension that I mentioned puts that university extension is a praxis. So it's very similar to the idea of praxis from Paulo Freire. And finally, Paulo Freire and the university extension concept that I mentioned, they considered that the relationship between university and society has to be aware about the societal needs and trying to relate with socially marginalized groups. So in other words, it's important to define the community. It's important to understand the societal needs that the community have. It's important to try to exchange knowledge with marginalized groups, not even with companies or government or this kind of things. So Paulo Freire's thought and university extension debate, we could say that they have the same aim in order to try to think about the societal needs and socially marginalized groups through the interaction between academics and between these groups.
So this is a word cloud of concepts that can be applied to the debate about university extension, considering Paulo Freire's thought. So here in this image, we have emancipation, dialogue, praxis, communication, culture, knowledge exchange, among others. So here we present the two final considerations. So we can highlight analyzing his book and analyzing the trajectory that Evandro presented about the 4ProX and the university extension in Brazil, that Paulo Freire's thought is still vibrant for thinking about the relationship between university and society. He offered tools for the practice, politics of university community engagement. So Paulo Freire's thought makes us reflect on our engagement practice, the engagement community practice, especially if we are not reproducing the knowledge transmission that he criticized, considering the other words that I presented before. So Evandro, if you want to talk something about the final considerations,
I think we try to do this reflection, And we think that trying to read again Paulo Freire's, not only this book, but the other ones, the whole work of Paulo Freire is very important to think about university community engagement, to think about the relationship between university and society. And we try to argue that an important definition about university extension here in Brazil have influence of Paulo Freire's thought. So this is the main one of the arguments, and the another one, I think the most important, that is to try to think about Paulo Freire as a vibrant thinker that offer important tools to us to analyze our engagement practice or our engagement or university extension practice at your universities, at your higher education institutions, and trying to see if we could do this process of knowledge exchange beyond the idea of knowledge transmission, because now it's quite common to say about the societal impact of science, the societal impact of higher education, and the way that we deliver this kind of societal impact, it's important to reflect. So Paulo Freire thought it's very important to criticize some views of societal impact of science, societal impact of our education policies, or this kind of debate that we have in our institutions, and trying to point out the idea of dialogue, the idea of that every relationship between university and society has political and ideological dimensions, the idea of praxis. So these kind of ideas that we mentioned in that cloud words are important to keep in mind in order to think about our engagement policies, engagement practice, how our universities are institutionalizing the university community engagement academic mission or university extension academic mission, and this kind of things. So so I think that the main message is that, and we like to thank you all of the people from the chat for the, I don't know if you have questions or comments here, but we will respond after. And that's it. Thank you Alexandre, thank you their organization, thank you the Clarec Collective, and that's it. We are open for questions.
Thank you very much, Evandro. Could you unshare?
I think I will stop sharing my screen.
Yes.
I think it's better. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Thais. Thank you, Evandro. Thank you, everybody here. Just a comment about the idea to bring this topic to this 2-week celebration of Paulo Freire. Extension is the idea was to bring into Cambridge this idea of the role of universities that is very particular in Latin America, and especially in Brazil, and how Paulo Freire is in DNA of this concept nowadays. So I would like to first to introduce this, that it was this idea that is we would like to share and to reflect with colleagues in Cambridge. And also, I would like to ask you both, like I have been studying extension in my research, and there is a very controversial moment in Brazil in terms of extension because of the curricularization of extension in this moment. And the interesting thing is extension now is in Brazil in our constitution and is there. Of course, there is a very discussion about the role of extension of universities, not the same as research and teaching. We used to say that in three similes, and one is like I don't know the name in English, is like not as prestigious as the two other brothers or sisters. So in this way, extension is in our constitution is a role of a public university, but is less prestigious than the other two roles, two missions. And now there is this idea to make it like stronger in terms of curriculum in Brazil. But at the same time, people who are very supportive of extension in Brazil are very concerned about what extension could be or transform if this is a role that people should do as research, as teaching. So because extension, you have like this kind of involvement, like and this mission that you go to communities, you have the responsibility of universities to transform together with communities. So I would like you guys, if you could share some thoughts about this this controversial situation, and what are your thoughts against or in favor of being having extension in our curriculum as research and teaching.
Evandro, I think you can start.
Okay. Thank you, Alexandre, for your question. And I think it's an important question. We focus it on a point of our extension, university extension history, which is the end of the 80s. And it's worth to mention that through this, through time, and even before, we have plenty of conceptions of university extension, ideas, and in a debate that could strengthen the role of university extension in the higher education institutions. But we have some academics, some people that they are very skeptical about that. They are simply against the strengthening of university extension in the universities, because they have the notion that the university have to carry out teaching and research, and the university extension is a kind of nice to have activity. It's nice to have, and if you have time, you could do that. And personally speaking, I'm against this position. I think if you could bring teaching, research, and university extension in a way that they could relate in a more in a more it's not in a more integrated way, I think it would be very nice, and it would improve a lot the way that university relate to society. So trying to respond the Alexandre question, I think of course, in fact, university extension is undervaluated mission. It's less prestigious, mainly because the resources, the institutionalization of university extension here, it's not so developed as teaching and research, and this is of course a problem. So the curricularization of university extension, I think it's an important step to try to connect teaching, research, and university extension. So I think it's important, but we are aware that in public universities nowadays are facing a moment that a difficult moment talking about our political context, talking about funding, talking about neoliberalism, and talking about that. So I think we have some tensions nowadays. One, trying to push the university extension to be more institutionalized, and the other one trying to make the universities as a simply space for teaching the basics and researching. So this is my thought in general. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with Evandro. Indeed, university extension in Brazil, besides the institutionalization in our constitution, it's a part from teaching and researching. For some teachers, for some professors here at University of Campinas, they consider extension as offering courses, and it's just that. For them, if they offer some courses about a topic that they are engaged to, they are doing extension. So, and extension, it's a commitment from university that is not valued. So we don't have, for example, financial to develop some projects. It's hard to reach someone, and when we reach someone, it's a small amount of money to finance all the activities that we have to develop with the communities and with the other groups. So when we put this challenge to the curricularization of the extension in the public universities, I think in our department, in our institute, Evandro can speak more about this because he is participating in this process. It's hard because lots of professors didn't actually, they don't know the real meaning of the university extension. For them, it's just course, as I said. So when we put this challenge to curricularization of the extension, it's I even don't know how to explain that, because it's hard to convince them the importance of this practice and the importance of integrate the university with the local community, with the marginalized people. And normally when they wanted to do something related to extension, they incorporate the criticism that Paulo Freire normally they criticize. So I have the knowledge, so you just have to listen to me. And well, it's a huge challenge for us, but I think we are on the process of doing something different to our students in the curricularization is a process that it's a challenge, but in addition, it's a good way to not just to transmit the knowledge produced in our universities, but it's a way to integrate the spaces, to know the real problems that the local communities are suffering. So I think that's it. But I totally agree with Evandro.
Thank you, Thais. Thank you, Evandro. If you would like to ask a question, just raise your hand and we can give the opportunity to ask as well. We have some time, 15 minutes.
I'm taking a look on the chat.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, it's always a challenge to talk about university extension because we have many practices or many ways to do university extension. So Thais mentioned courses, but we have projects of university extension. We have cultural initiatives. We could have communication, scientific communication initiatives. We could have many ways of doing university extension. And the Paulo Freire's thought is very important because we could apply this reflection on every way of doing university extension. Even if I'm doing a course, I could try to think about if I'm trying to exchange knowledge beyond the transmit my knowledge to the external audience, to external community. If I'm trying to dialogue my praxis, the political and cultural dimension. So I think every university extension practice we could apply Paulo Freire's thoughts to think about and to structure university extension practice, projects, programs that could be that could bring together actually research, teaching, and the engagement, and trying to be as much as dialogical or trying to think about this kind of things that Paul Freire thoughts about communication and extension raises up.
Evandro, there is a question here that maybe would be interesting to explore. There are some questions, but this one, because we are sharing those thoughts with people from outside, about it is from Andrea Detmer Latorre. Sorry if it's that. She's Chilean. It's in Chile. She's in Chile. You mentioned that the extension is prescribed in the Brazilian Constitution. Could you explain, please, a bit more on how it is included and how it embraces Freire's thoughts?
I don't know if Thais wants to respond that, but well, in the end of the 90s, we had a redemocratization process after a military dictatorship, and we had a new constitution. In this, we could, of course, the field of higher education and even science, the constitution tried to bring together teaching, research, and university extension. So I don't remember the exactly words of the constitutions, but the constitutions mention that the universities and higher education institutions, they have to integrate the research, teaching, and university extension. So yes, Thais is mentioned here in Portuguese. So from that, some public policies such as plans, national policies in the field of higher education, they took that law, that view that the constitutions provided, they try to elaborate it in a practical ways with plans, with public policies, and this kind of things. So in the letter of the law, in the constitution, it's important because they talk about the association, the integration about teaching, learning, and teaching, research, and university extension. So it is very important to us. But I don't see many influences of Paulo Freire in the Constitution itself, talking about the university extension. But in the 4ProEx, which is this forum of prorectors, the Paulo Freire's thought is very influencing. So in this 4ProEx, this forum of prorectors, they are a very important political actors in the field of higher education, the field of university extension in Brazil. So they are trying to push the debate. They are trying to keep these notions that we mentioned in your presentation in the political landscape, in the public policies and higher education institutions and these kind of things. But in the Constitution itself, I don't see many influences of Paulo Freire's on, especially I'm talking about university extension. I don't know the other ones ali there. So that's it.
There's a question of Fatima de Oliveira. Can one of you mention if there have been experiences of the engagement between universities and communities and the effects in the students and teachers' daily work?
Yes, there are lots of practice. Well, we know about the practice developed in University of Campinas, but of course there are lots of practice, extension practice developed in other public universities here in Brazil. And especially in University of Campinas, we, some years ago, me and Evandro, we were participating in a project called ITCP. I don't know in English how to translate this because it's Incubadora Tecnológica de Cooperativas Populares. And I don't know if Evandro...
I'm sorry. It's a technological incubator of popular cooperatives.
Yes, thank you. I don't know if it's incubator, it's a right
yes,
word. Okay.
I have to say that I think it's right, but I don't.
Okay, so that's it. So in this project, we as students and our supervisors, our professors from University of Campinas developed some activities with a cooperative near the university to help them to develop some technological process to their work, to facilitate their work. And it was just one example, but we have other like past years, we developed a project with asylum. So there was the students, there was the professors, the technical from this asylum, and the elderly people who are joined in some activities, cultural activities, and other kind of activities with them, just to aprimorate their abilities and skills to do other kind of activities in this community, in this asylum. So it was a very interesting experience for me, I think for Evandro too. And there are lots of them. I think if Evandro, I think Evandro can share other experiences too, or complement what I said. Yes, there is a link Evandro shared in the chat but it's in Portuguese, I think.
Yes,
And they
unfortunately,
present
it's in
some
Portuguese.
activities. We present some activities developed with this ITCP. So there are some, we offer some courses too, but it's not the way that Paulo Freire is criticized. We consider all the opinions and the cultures, and related to social technology and other kind of topics.
Yes, and I think in this, about the discussion, I think it's important to think university extension through the integration of teachers, students, researchers, and the community, because sometimes we see only teachers doing or only students. We have here some organizations that the students they create organizations to do some kind of volunteering activities and this kind of things. But the ideal is that we could develop large programs or large projects of university extension. And within that large projects, we could include teachers, students, and the community, and develop initiatives such courses, or like trying to help the community to develop technologies, social technologies, trying to improve with the community, of course, the well-being of the communities that we're relating. So basically, ideally speaking, the university extension could, in a practical way, could function like that. So we have the ITCP that Thais mentioned, and it's an example. We have a larger project, and within this project, and with the community, we try to build many initiatives, projects, practice that help the community, and of course, trying to be as much as dialogical and trying to have a good communication process. And we have challenges in this process, because the academic language, it's different than the language that the communities there use at too. So we have to, basically it's a negotiation process, but in a good sense. It was, of course. And in the end of the day, we were very integrated with the communities, and the communities, they showed the need to be seen in the university. So one of these communities that we have worked on this project, they catch garbage on the street to recycle them. So they basically they want to be seen in the university as an important community that to the environment, to the city quality of life. So we are trying to always to have this kind of dialogical communications, to bring these communities in the academic environment, integrated them, listen to them, to their needs, and try to develop something together. So it was a good experience, and ideally speaking, the university extension could work on that way.
Thank you, Evandro. I think there is a comment here, Andrea. Thank you very much. Remind that there is a lot of projects in terms of medical and odontological care, and especially in the pandemic, the universities had a really big role in Brazil, using extension activities to go to communities and to help to bring masks and alcohol. And so it was a very important moment, especially because universities in the countryside, that the health system it was struggling a lot. So extension, in my view, as now 5 years living in the UK, I think the relationship, there is a question, I forgot who question about the relation between students, teachers, and I think the extension in Brazil is a kind of space that give you the opportunity for students to engage with activities that here in the UK, they usually go to NGOs, to communities and places that is not connected to the university. I think that is a very interesting Brazil, because of course you don't have like all the students doing that. But you have like, I don't know, I would say like 20%, 30% going to extension. That's the point in terms of the curricularization. That would be like 100%, because all the students should go to have experience in extension. So this is a kind of difference that I think universities have this kind of space that students can have this experience, connect to universities, going to communities, not only through NGOs or communities work. So yeah, we are just time. I don't know if there is anybody who would like to comment or also comment what I said. So Evandro and Thais, please.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very interesting what you mentioned now, because I didn't know that the students goes to go to these NGOs associations, and here in Brazil it's common to have this relation with NGOs, but especially for internship but not extension projects. There are some, but the most part of them are related to marginalized communities, marginalized groups, and the local community, of course. And because of the pandemic, I think the university commitment with with the community, I think growth in a special way. Here in Brazil, University of Campinas, it was the first university to stop the activities. And because of this, they started to develop lots of actions and activities with the local population to attend, to receive this the population to the treatment, and it was very important, especially in this context of denying the scientific knowledge, denying the university itself. So it's important, and the university extension, it was like a door for these activities, for these actions. So that's it.
Yes, I think Alexandre and Thais pointed out perfect reflections about that. And I would like to add, I think we're in the end of the seminar, but of course, we're always open to questions, that we have a experience on university extension, and I'm talking about the Brazilian and Latin American landscape, that although it's less valued and less institutionalized with compared with teaching and research, we have a good trajectory, a good historical trajectory on university extension in Latin America and Brazil. And I think Europe, United States, and Africa and other countries, we have ways to dialogue and to build some discussion that I think it was missing about university extension and university community engagement, because when I talked about, especially with people from Europe, about the Latin American discussion on university extension, they normally they say to me, Evandro, this is great, this is very useful, this is very important. So I think, and it's a so I think this event is important to, I think, to place that also. And Alexandre and Thais is right. The pandemic brought some could or I think may have stimulating this kind of engagement. And I think the Latin American landscape has too much to show about that. So if we are trying to research, or if we are trying to understand the role of universities here in Latin America, we will discover a lot of important, a lot of interesting things that we sometimes it's missing. So this is my my opinion about that.
Thanks so much, Evandro. Thank you, Thais. So we are now closing this event. Thanks so much for you guys. It was a moment in Brazil, especially in the 80s and 80s, that we could like bring more Paulo Freire in the university through those ideas of extension. Unfortunately, we are not in, we are in completely other side now. And I'm just advertise now the event tomorrow that is going to show this, is the Ideas Lab, KPP Ideas Lab is going to have like the seminar, Why is Paulo Freire Spectre Haunting the Brazilian Far Right? So I saw Andrea Pineda is around here, so she's going to be with Catarina Segato and Mario Alves talking about that. So don't miss tomorrow, 11 o'clock in the UK and 8 a.m. in Brazil with your coffee. And thank you very much. I think we had great thoughts here, especially sharing about extension and about Paulo Freire in this conversation. And I remind that this conversation, this seminar is going to be, has been recorded and going to be available in our channels. I don't know if you, please, Evandro and Thais, your final thoughts.
Just like to thank you again the invitation. It was a great opportunity to talk about and make us reflect also about this relationship between Paulo Freire's thought and university extension. So just like to thank you, Alexandre, and the whole organizers.
Yeah, I would like to thank you too for the invite. And it was a huge opportunity to recover the Paulo Freire's thought about university extension and to think about our practice too. I think it was a good experience. If we are doing something that he criticizes or not. And so thank you very much, Clarek, for the invite, and especially Alexandre for to bring us together in this moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thais. Thank you, Evandro. Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow, 8 o'clock in Brazil and 11 UK. Bye-bye.